Hello, and I'd like to welcome you all to the old schoolhouse here in the hamlet of Butterstone for another one of our wee half-hour Saturday nights. And first of all, I have to apologise for last weekend, which was really sad because we had everything set up. We had the fire all lit and the oil lamps, and we don't know what went wrong. And we're actually trying a new streaming provider at the moment, and so we're maybe having technical issues. But let's hope it all goes smoothly tonight. And we're just going to learn how to use it. But it's been beautiful weather here in Butterstone. It's like a summer's day today. It was beautiful. I'm just waiting for the weather to change because that's probably what happens. You know, I think that happened last year. We had a couple of beautiful weeks in the beginning of the year, then it rained for the rest of the year. But anyway, so this is I'm going to start off with this wee song, which is I've got my requests. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the same set that I was going to do last week up on Lewis, and this was requested for Gianna Ballantyne Jeffrey from Southeast Wales, and also for Richard Grove in Auckland in New Zealand. Hi, you guys. Well, it's a wee song I wrote about an Iron Age village just up above the village, above Butterstone here. And I just was imagining this young Iron Age girl sitting on this big rock looking out over the Strathmore, which is the amazing valley. And so we'll try and see how we go on, and we'll keep our fingers crossed to the stream and do it all. And could you please welcome the wonderful Tatty Faces, who will be accompanying me with their usual virtuosity. edge of the world, and the stars' bright mystery. It's so clear, deep in the spark of our eyes, reflecting to shine free. We breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. Long light, sharp like the edge of a blade, breaks apart across the green fields. Dark night, wild with the mysteries we've made, and all the shapes that lie asleep and concealed. We breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. Brave blood, strong like the string of the bow, and the path that we follow. Great words told so the children will grow as straight as the arrow. We breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. I think the global choir could try singing that, going, and we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. And again, it sounded good, remember? And we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. From here we see the edge of the world, and the stars' bright mystery. It's so clear, deep in the spark of our eyes, reflecting to shine free. We breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. Oh, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind, we breathe with the wind. Thank you very much. And that's my wee song about my wee Ernest girl up on the hills above Butterstone here, looking out across. And these people, you know, they had a great sense of kind of nature and just their sense of place. And that's where the wee song came from. And I'm going to continue and I do a wee bit of a guitar change of tuning here. And this is a wee song that I wrote in St Anne's in Cape Breton in Nova Scotia. And I've probably told the story before, but I was up there and but the story started off when I was in New Zealand, and I was travelling down through the North Island of New Zealand, and I stopped off at this little place called Waipu, and I pulled into the gate that went into the cemetery there. It was a cemetery, and I noticed that all the gravestones were, you know, Scottish names and all from Scotland. You know, William MacDonald from Ullapool, and so from Assynt, and there was a wee museum in the village, which I went into, and these two lovely older ladies said to me and told me this amazing story about the Reverend Norman MacLeod, who had left the west coast of Scotland, had left Assynt, and had travelled to Canada, to Cape Breton, and he'd set up the whole community. His whole community sort of travelled over to Cape Breton, and they set up on St Anne's Bay, and they built houses and they cut the trees down, and they were there for 30 years. But it's very cold up there if you've ever been up there, and the sea freezes over in the winter time, and so for whatever reason, probably because of the weather, the Reverend decided that he was going to move his entire congregation of 800 people to New Zealand. And so they were boat builders, and they'd been from the west coast of Scotland, and they'd built boats from Assynt. And so they cut down the trees, built, I think, 6 boats, and then sailed all the way to New Zealand. I think it took them 6 weeks, 6 months might have been, to get to 6 weeks it would be, yeah, probably, to get to New Zealand. And they had a very safe passage. There was no deaths, and I think there was 4 children born on the crossing. And they arrived and they settled in this little place called Waipu, and that's why they were all in the graves, and all the graves were in the graveyard. So I was up in St Anne's Bay. I went to visit St Anne's Bay where they built the boats up in Cape Breton, and I realised I'd been to all 3 different places, you know, Assynt in Scotland, St Anne's Bay in Nova Scotia, and Waipu. And I realised that the young men who'd left the west coast of Scotland looking for a better life for themselves were eventually the old men who arrived in Waipu, and they'd spent their entire lives trying to kind of cut down trees, build houses and stuff and that, you know, to try and make a new life. So I wrote this song, and it's called Boat Builders. And I'm just going to have a wee mouthful of this because I've got a bit of a tickle. It's a great excuse to have a mouthful of my vintage port. So we'll try it. There's actually got a good wee chorus in this song that you can sing as a global choir, and I'm assuming I'm not getting any messages from Jenny saying that there's been a problem, so it seems to be working all right. So I was there on the cold Assynt hills. Oh, I forgot to put the capo down there. You nearly got the Michael Jackson version up there. Jenny's rolling about laughing up the back. Mr. Tattyface, don't you dare laugh. I was there on the cold Assynt hills. I had the hunger cry and the time nothing. I heard the young men say goodbye to the place where their young dreams had grown. For there's a land somewhere where we can build our freedom. There's a land somewhere where our children will grow strong. And if our lives should be spared, we'll need no other reason to sail on, to sail on. Oh, I stood on the shores at St. Anne's. I watched them building boats to trade the oceans. I saw the preacher raise his hands, saying, "Children, it's time to move on." Try it with me. For there's a land somewhere we can build our freedom. There's a land somewhere where our children will grow strong. If our lives should be spared, oh, we'll need no other reason to sail on. Sing it on. To sail on. Oh, I watched from the white, white Pooh sands. I watched them drop their sails and throw their anchors. I saw the old men shake each other's hands, saying, "Brothers, now I think we are home." For there's a land somewhere where we can build our freedom. There's a land somewhere where our children will grow strong. If our lives should be spared, oh, we'll need no other reason to sail on, to sail on, to sail on. Fade it away, to sail on. Thank you very much. That's my wee song about the Reverend Norman MacLeod and all his followers doing their journey from. And you should, if you go and Google it, it's an amazing story. Somebody should make a movie out of it. And I believe he was quite a strict kind of old Presbyterian minister. Probably that's how he managed to get everybody to do it. To cut down the trees, and must have been an incredible effort involved in moving the 800 people from. Now it's interesting when you walk around St Anne's Bay today. If you go into the woods, you can see the remains of the cellars of their houses and things and that. And the big church that they built is still there. It's a very fascinating part of Cape Breton. Anyway, we'll do this wee song with a chorus now. And that song was, Boat Builders. Now, this was last week. I was going to dedicate this song to our dear friends Carson and Karen from Denmark, who were at the time last weekend sailing their boat back to Denmark. But they were sailing home from the Aro to the Flensburg Fjord. They were going from Aro. It's a kind of Viking word. I can't pronounce it, And they were going to be watching the live stream on their boat, but they're probably home now, sitting in front of the fire, having a wee glass of whiskey in front of the wood burner. And anyway, hi Carson and Cara. Sorry about last weekend. And so anyway, I thought I would do this, which is completely opposite to what the weather is like out there. But this is what I had planned for last weekend. So and this is the song that I chose for the global choir to kind of sing with me, because we've done this 100 times during these broadcasts. So it's called Wild and Windy Night, and it's my version of the kind of old night visiting song, which every culture's got a lot of them, And I'm just going to have another mouthful. So we'll try this and we'll get the global choir kind of warmed up, and we'll see if we can get it. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? That's the chorus that you sing if you've not heard it before and you're just tuning in. So this is what you sing. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? I think we might do it one more time just to make sure that you've all got it. Do you think this is the face? Yeah, I think we will. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? When I may lose my way back home, lose the signs that I've been shown, wander helpless through the storm, all alone. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? When I may lose the sense to run, finish what I've not begun, fading with the winter sun, everything undone. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild strength to dream, for nothing is the way it seems, and all the places I have been forever unseen. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? This is where you sing it on your own. Global choir, have a little mouthful of your libation, even if it's just a wee cup of tea you're having there. Here we go. Will you hear? Absolutely beautiful. I think having a wee break last weekend has helped the global choir singing. Resting your voices. Here we go again. Will you I think we'll do it again. And Jenny's singing it. I'm going to get Jenny to come right up to the front here so we might be able to hear her. Come on, Jen. Right up to the front. Here we go. Will you? Beautiful. I'm getting the vibe here in the old schoolhouse. Definitely getting a global choir vibe. Thank goodness it's actually all working tonight, which is makes a bit of a change. We've had a few problems the last couple of weeks, but here we go. Nothing ever calms the fear, out of sight, but always near, waiting for the sky to clear. I will disappear. Here we go. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? One last time. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? On this wild and windy night. Thank you very much, and that's my song Wild and Windy Night, and I was getting the vibe there. That was a fantastic global choir event going on there, and that was requested actually by was for Jane and Douglas Johnson from Malaga in Spain. And I hope you're watching tonight, because this was a request from last week, so there might not be. And also for Franklin Bailey from Boston in the USA. And that's a nice part of the world. I used to play quite a bit around Boston, and I love that whole area of America. So we're going to get to the end now. This is our last wee song. And this was a song which I was going to sing last weekend because it's so relevant to Lewis. And it's because it's a wild place, Lewis. And I've told the story before, you know, that there's nothing between the west coast of the island of Lewis and America. And when the big Atlantic storms come in, the winds are so wild, it's a dangerous thing to leave your house. And I wrote this song after watching a caravan tumbling past my front window on the little house I've got up on the west coast of Lewis. And so I wrote this, and the chorus is easy to sing. I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. I feel so near. And last weekend, Finn, my friend Finn, who I'm in the middle of making a wee documentary about, actually, which I'll play to you sometimes when I would do the ticket shows. And we had a great day filming it on Finn's Croft. But Finn was up and he was all ready. We had a few refreshments and we had the fire and the oil lamps and then it all went. But we're having a conversation earlier because I was outside just before we started the stream and I could hear the cuckoo. And it was my first cuckoo of the year. And Finn was telling me this fascinating story because he said that when he was a wee boy, you know, whenever you saw a cuckoo, there was a little bird followed it, was with it, you know. There was the cuckoo and the little bird. And they had a Gaelic word for it. The Gaelic word was kokaman, the kokaman. And Finn was saying, you know, that he'd say to his dad, oh, I just seen a cuckoo, and the father would say, was the kokaman with it? Was the kokaman with it? And we were trying to work out what this kokaman would have been. And we actually worked it out between us, me and Finn, because what happens with the cuckoo is the cuckoo lays its egg in these wee birds' nests. And as the big cuckoo gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it kicks all the wee nestlings out of the wee bird's nest. And I've actually seen but the wee bird keeps feeding the cuckoo. It's a terrible thing, actually. And I've actually seen a photograph of a wee bird perched on the beak of the cuckoo, still feeding it. But what happens is when the big cuckoo leaves the nest, the little bird goes with it. You know, like with other birds, you know, when they're fledglings, the mother's always around somewhere just in case there's any kind of danger or anything like that. And this is what the kokaman was. This was the wee bird that had brought up the cuckoo, still kind of following it around, making sure that it was all right. And that's why. So I thought that was a lovely story there, and the fact that there was a lovely Gaelic word for it. So we'll have a go at this. And I thought it was quite a nice word. I might write a song about the kokaman. So I mentioned Finn in this song because I wrote this on the kitchen table up in my little house up there. And the chorus is easy. He's saying, I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. I feel so near. Okay, Mr. Tiny Face. All right, Duncan, here you go. Find me sitting at this table with my friend Finn and my friend John. My friend Murdani tells us stories of things long gone, long gone. And we will take a glass together. Whiskey makes it all so clear. It fires our dulled imagination. And I feel so near, so near. I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. Feel so near to the flowers in the fields. I feel so near. The old man looks out to the islands. He says this place is endless and thin. no real distance here to mention. We might all fall in, all fall in. No distance to the spirits of the living. No distance to the spirits of the dead. But as he turned, his eyes were shining, and he proudly said, here we go, make a bit of noise. I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. I feel so near. So you sing it on your own? Here we go. I feel so near. Beautiful. And again, that's sounding great. Gone. I feel so near. There's definitely a global choir thing happening here. So we build our tower constructions there to mark our place in time. We justify our great destructions as on we climb, on we climb. Now the journey doesn't seem to matter. The destination faded out. Gathering out along the headlands, I hear the children shout, children shout. Woo! I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. I feel so near. I feel so near the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. Here we go. And I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. I feel so near. Well done. Well done, Global Choir. I'm getting the vibe here. I'm getting the Global Choir vibe here in the old Schoolhouse, and that's my wee song about the west coast of the island of Lewis and the fact that it's an amazing place. You feel nature right in your face like that when you when you're up there, and that was requested for Oh no, that was a request, my request for all my friends up there on the Valtos Peninsula, and it's a lovely place. It's a wee peninsula called the Valtos, and if you look at it on Google Maps, you'll see it. The wee village is called Reef. But what's fascinating about the peninsula is it's owned by the community. A number of years ago, the landowner sold it, and the community was able to buy the land. So it's a community-owned piece of land now, and that's a wonderful thing, you know. And the local people make the decisions about what happens on the peninsula, and there's no sort of big landowner involved, and it's just fantastic, you know. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our wee soiree tonight. I'm glad it seems to have gone smoothly, because we had a terrible trauma last weekend up on Island Lewis. I transported all the equipment up with me, spent the afternoon setting it all up, and then it didn't happen, and I had to bring it all back down to Butterstone again. So, but and it was when we couldn't get it to work. Jenny and I and Finn were like headless chickens running around trying to find out what was wrong, and we just couldn't find we couldn't explain what actually had happened. But sometimes these things just happen. But I was just saying to Jenny, that's not bad out of 264 to have one that we had to cancel, which is, I think, it's the only one we've actually not totally cancelled. So thanks for hanging in there with us that night, but we just couldn't make it work. Anyway, they'll be good the next time. I'm going back up next weekend, and the next one will be in 2 weeks' time. We're going to go back up to Lewis, and I'll get it fixed, whatever happened this time, because it's a completely different system that we use up on the island, so, but we're here next week, so we're back in the old schoolhouse next week. So anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed your half hour. Thanks to Jenny. She's been very stressed up tonight. We just didn't know if it was going to work or not. But we've obviously solved any of the problems. And these are very troubled times we're living through, so it's just as long as we're all looking after each other and staying cheery and smiling like a tatty face, and having a good wee sing-song like we've just done in the last half hour, then that's all we can really do. And so I hope you can look after each other, and I'll see you all next weekend. And till then, night night.